Today on the show, we say hello to yet another reboot of Spider-Man. All this and more on What the Hell Did We Just Watch? Welcome to another episode of What the Hell Did We Just Watch? I'm your host, Lumotional Lou, and this is the show, the only show that helps spread TV and movie awareness. How's everyone doing? How's everyone's weekend going? I hope everyone's having a great time. I hope everybody's enjoying summer. I hope everybody's doing everything, but most importantly, I hope that everyone's been putting in their TV or movie time. Okay? Be good. Everything's good. Everything's great. And just to get right down to it, this week we're going to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming.
You're young. You don't understand how the world works. Stay close to the ground.
I know you sneak out every night.
What is going on with you?
You've been treating me like a kid all the time.
You are a kid.
What if you died tonight?
What are you hiding, Peter?
I just gotta do this on my own.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Spot something like that happening, you run the other way.
Yeah, of course.
Now, what can I possibly say about not the MCU, but Spider-Man's introduction to a proper film in the MCU? First off, welcome home, because this is definitely the best place that you can be. I'm very happy that Marvel Studios and Sony were able to come to this kind of like fair ground where they can coexist and make this film possible. And I'm very happy for that, because for better or for worse, I'm not saying anything yet, but for better or for worse, this is where this character deserves to be. This is where the entire franchise of the Marvel existing universe, in terms of what they don't own, they all deserve to come home. That includes the Fantastic Four. That includes the X-Men franchise. That even includes the Deadpool franchise. Though I think, at recent times where the success of Deadpool, I get that. But at the end of the day, I think people can agree with me that the proper place for your characters to be, for these characters to be, I should say, is home with Marvel. For better or for worse, that's what I'm saying. Is the Marvel Studios has proven that they can handle the properties that they have, that they know they can do. They know what they need to do. They know what they're doing. They're doing a good job. Like I said, they're doing even at sometimes a very good job. You know what I mean? A great job, that's more of an opinion for people. There are reasons why they're doing a great job for some, and there are reasons why they're not doing a great job for some. But I do believe, and that anyone can agree, is that they're doing the best job for their characters and for the stories that they want to tell in the ways that they want to tell them. And that's good for them, because let me tell you something, at the end of the day, they're doing things much better than what Fox is doing with the franchises they own, and they've been doing better than what Sony has been doing with the Spider-Man franchise, because that's what they own. They've proven that they did a better job with the Hulk franchise, if you want to call it a franchise, better than what Universal did with it. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's for better or for worse. They're doing better with Punisher. Like, just think about all these characters that left that they did not own because of the bankruptcy that happened years ago. Some of them have come back home. Ghost Rider came back home. They're doing better things than what these other film companies could have done, with them. And though I believe that Sony did do a great job with the Spider-Man franchise when they first got it, because I actually am a big fan of the Tobey Maguire series. Not so much the third one, but it's for political reasons of like the film politics of how that film was made. But for the most part, Spider-Man and the first X-Men film with Fox, they had an agenda. They had a way to go. But this is what happened. There was this resurgence. Character you may know now as Iron Man was created in 2007, 10 years ago now. Can you believe that? And it has changed the way comic book films should be made. You know, even to the point where Warner Brothers, where they own the entire DC franchise. And that's what I mean about, for better or for worse, they deserve to be together with their whole family. You know what I mean? Marvel, it would be nice if Marvel Studios eventually one day owned everything from their Marvel franchise. And it gives them the ability to do what they want, whether it's to succeed and fail, but they're home where they need to be. You know, nobody complains whether it's good or bad when Disney makes a cartoon or Pixar makes a cartoon, but they're home. They're not being sold off to the highest bidder. You know what I mean? For better or for worse, they're home. You know, and the same goes for Marvel. Hopefully, one day they can have that luxury that Warner Brothers has with the entire DC franchise. For better or for worse, they're in all in one place, and they can make any movie they want. You know, but like I said, back to what I'm talking about, Marvel. They created the MCU with Iron Man, and they set forth and wanted to make a shared universe. And that's fantastic. I'm a big fan of the fact that that is the world that we live in. I love that. I loved how everything is kind of like a TV show now and all that stuff. And that's what makes it great. And they do such a great job in keeping everything connected with, I mean, I'm being honest, I can't see any plot holes. I'm very good with noticing plot holes when it comes to fucking up a franchise, you know. X-Men, I'm talking to you with this. You suck at keeping your stories in great continuation. You know, that it's not a horrible thing. You know, and save for the confusion on why people think Logan is a standalone, because people really want it to be not part of the X-Men universe, but it is. You know, but like I said, Marvel Studios, they do a good job with the properties that they have. You know, that's basically what I'm saying. And good, you know, good for them for being able to come up with this kind of luxury that they're able to use the Spider-Man character in their MCU. Finally, after all these years, they can finally do it. So congratulations before we start talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. So congratulations, MCU, for that. Now, with Spider-Man Homecoming, I'm going to, like I did with Logan previously, I'm going to talk about it where it's both a Spider-Man film and an MCU film. Now, as an MCU film and also as a standalone, I could say together that it's this. The film was good. And what I mean by good is that it was an above average good movie. Was it a fantastic, great, amazing movie? I think it was kind of far from it. It's not its fault entirely, and I'll get to that why. But let's talk about what the good stuff I have to say about it. You know, the good stuff is its proper MCU connection. I would have never seen it. I kind of foreshadowed how they were going to connect it, and that was with Civil War when the trailer came out, and it was kind of, I was trying to put the pieces together when it was supposed to be about that. And I was like, oh, cool, you know, so he wants to be an Avenger. He's trying to get Tony Stark. He's trying to convince Tony Stark to, you know, let him be a part of the team. And I was like, yeah, that's a cool story. I can get behind that. But when I saw it and I saw that not only did they connect Spider-Man into the MCU properly, and they went ahead and they connected Michael Keaton's character, who plays Vulture, Tom's. He was connected beautifully into the MCU as well. And I give, you know, bravo to the MCU for proper writing and putting him in the both of them into the film properly, and it made sense. It didn't feel out of place, and that's where I give, like I said, how I thanked the Marvel Studios for paying attention to things like that. You know what I mean? That matters. It matters to me. I really, 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 really appreciate it when things like that connect, and it doesn't feel out of place. It's not jammed in. It doesn't feel forced. You know, it doesn't. When things like that happen, is because a writer is being lazy, or the studio's being lazy. Someone's being lazy in the upper ups, and they pay attention to connectivity and world building and proper world building, I should say, and you know, making us feel comfortable about where this is, because they know that there are people that have seen every single film, that has connected every single movie, and that, and I'm one of them, and I like to thank them again, MCU, for that. But keep it moving. Michael Keaton's Vulture was great. I think he was the real foundation that I wasn't expecting that this character would take. So I'm very happy, that Michael Keaton definitely got his due. I think he made the film that was meant for him to be doing properly. I think I could see probably why he walked away from making the film and then walked back. I think that they gave him as an actor his due and his proper usage of his acting abilities. And that's why I think that if the film really kind of, the pendulum kind of swings mostly his way, and he's the real driving force of the film, believe it or not. And with Spider-Man, I believing is kind of like at times taking the back seat a little bit. And that's a good thing, because the fact that this film franchise has been rebooted kind of 3 times over, but this time it's different because it's a part of the MCU. So it's, I forgive it for that. And they took a different approach, and they knew which ways that they should go and which ways that they should not. And I think they did their best with that, and that's good. And introducing the Spider-Man character, with someone that's not Green Goblin finally, or his biggest arch enemy, was a good idea. Giving him a different girl to like in the film was a good idea that no one knows about, because they created her out of thin air. I believe. I don't remember reading about her in the comic books, unless she was put in recently. I love the fact that Tom Holland, he's very likable. He's great Spider-Man. MCU did a good job wanting to have a child, literally a child, to be Spider-Man. He's only 15, 16 years old, and he's literally in high school, and there's a lot of school stuff in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're good. That's a bit of a home run for me. I really, really like that. Tom Holland, like I said, was great. The Russo brothers did a good job casting him, because that's who did it, because his introduction was in the film Civil War. So seeing him there was a breath of fresh air. Seeing him there was awesome. And people were lined up to see how good he was going to be in his standalone film. And people took him with open arms. From what I'm seeing, it has a great opening weekend. I think it was 115 or such, 120 for the weekend. So it's definitely well received, a lot more well received than the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, and for good reason, because it is a better film than those 2 films. It is a better film than Spider-Man 3. So I think I can, and you notice that I didn't say Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2. So I think I can kind of segue from there into the good, into the bad, because I think I've said enough good things, because there are good things about it. There's a lot of good things about it. But sadly, in the bad, there is more disappointing things than I really, really would have wanted there to be in this film. A lot of it falls to blame with the MCU, though. Like I said, for better or for worse, this is the best place that he can be, and any Marvel character can be. As if you've heard any of the past episodes that I talked about with the Marvel films that I've seen, that are in this series of shows, you start seeing and you start listening to what I'm saying, that I think the MCU has a little bit of a fatigue, or they've decided to kind of go into a creative process where it's lazy, where they know it's enjoyable, but there is no real pushing forward of the characters that they are creating, or that they move along. They kind of, for me, feel like they've been standing still, for this entire phase that they've been in. I think it's the 3rd phase still, or the 4th phase. I actually lost count, because there's 22 film properties that are in connection now, and I don't remember what phase we're in anymore. But one thing I do know for sure, I think we're still in phase 3. Maybe that's where we're at. But what I mean by the blame falls on MCU is that they're not making any quality films anymore. Not the way that they were doing it in phase one, and more importantly in phase two, because I felt that their films were better quality in the phase two run, starting with Iron Man 3 and, and basically all the sequels there. There were more quality films, you know what I mean? Somewhere along the lines after, or during, I should say, Avengers Age of Ultron, they have decided to kind of take away what I believe stories are defined by being good. And that's the one word, it's consequences. Our characters in our stories, in every story, I feel should have consequences. They should lose something or, suffer something that is dear to them, or, and they either fight back for it or they lose it entirely. And we have to kind of like walk that journey with that character to, understand that losing something, sometimes you gain something, inside in your mind or something like that. And this film, as the last other films, they all suffer from this, So I think, like I said, since during Age of Ultron, and I think that's why the director left, because there was nothing to lose anymore. The characters lose nothing. And if they do lose something, it's not a big deal, and it's not something that they won't get back. And it's kind of like that they really learned something from it. They suffer from characters not dying, and I don't mean like these tragic deaths or anything like that, but I mean like they're kind of just being put in jail and they're like being put on ice. But how do you grow from that? How does a character grow from that? By losing someone or accidentally killing their villain in a superhero film, or having to kill the villain, in a superhero film. I'm tired of the no consequences policy that I feel that the MCU has put into their films. I think that they're in there. They put it in there, like that kind of mentality on there, that when they tell their writers to write something, their consequences could be little to nothing. There's a scene at the end, in this film where Spider-Man is doing something, and you think that he's doing something to help the other person, and it turns out that nothing happens to that person right after, when they're building it up to be like this important kind of like moment, and it builds up to nothing. And I turn to my girl, and I tell her, what was the point of him even trying if the person was just going to live or not even be scarred or hurt, or, from the consequence? He was totally fine. So if that person just stayed doing what they were doing, it wouldn't have mattered. That's what I'm trying to say. So what was the point of the scene of building it up if it was going to result into no consequence? You know what I mean? So that's just pretty sad in my book. When it comes to that, that's just terrible storytelling, And and what's hilarious is now I'm looking for that moment where they decide that they're going to put consequences into their stories again. That's going to be the surprise when it's so. There's no real shocker in Spider-Man: Homecoming. There hasn't been any kind of shocker, I believe, in any of the MCU films for a very long time. There was one mouth open moment and things like that, but they get away with it, and that's a generational thing too. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy that people use the way we are now as a generation, and they use that for a plot device, because my jaw dropped from it. Maybe it's because I'm old, I don't know, and I was surprised by that. When it comes to the Spider-Man films, when I'm putting it all together in terms of which one's the best and the worst in my mind, for the Spider-Man films, not talking MCU stuff, the MCU stuff, it falls right in the middle. I think that the Captain America series so far is one of the best trilogies of superhero movies ever made. So thank you, MCU, for that. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, the very first film, is amazing. It's story driven, but the films that I'm talking about, they have consequences in them. You know what I mean? You need them, and you need that push, for these characters. And I think that Avengers is also the best film still to date for the MCU. And one of the reasons why I say that is that in the MCU, they still use the first Avengers movie as a base for the continuing series, and even still to this day. And the first Avengers film was, 6 years ago, so it's pretty amazing, for them to do that. And that's why the Avengers is still the best film that I believe that the MCU has ever done, and, you're welcome to have your own opinion. That's fine. But I think that most people should agree with me there. If you're using something as your base to try to spring from, and using that one moment, that one defining moment from that film franchise, as your crutch or as your landing point, I mean, your taking off point, then come on, man, you gotta say that. It's the reason why certain people say part one is better, sequels are not better than part ones, regardless of the fact, it doesn't matter. But, I think Avengers falls into that, where it was that first great team movie, and then, this humongous thing, happens at the end of the film that the MCU has been, kind of taking off from that, because it opened up a huge door for the MCU to keep going, bigger than I ever imagined that it would too. Like the fact that they keep using Avengers as the crutch, it still amazes me, and it's not tiring. It's not even fatigued at all, and that's good. So, Homecoming, I believe, is somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? It's my sixth favorite out of the entire MCU movie. Subject to change always, because there's always more movies coming out. So yeah, I mean, one of these days I'll tell you what my worst to best films are. I'll probably take an episode for that. Whoever's interested in here, and I'll tell you my reasons and all that, and that'll be great. As a Spider-Man film, not Star Wars, as a Spider-Man film put up against all the other Spider-Man films, I would have to say that this is the third best. This one I can do kind of like a worst to it. I would have to say that the worst film out of the entire franchise is, yes, it is Spider-Man 3. I really don't like saying that it's terrible. Sam Raimi was done dirty to make that film. It was a producer's choice, and they were wrong. It was Sony is the one to blame for making this. So it wasn't a film made by Sam Raimi the way that he was intended to make. So for me to kind of banish him or shit on him for it, I think it's an unfair thing. He's not the only director to have fallen in this category for me. There are other people that I feel sorry for when it comes to the heavy hand of a studio to tell them how they should or should not make the fucking movie, and I can't stand that. I just got word that the No Man Land scene, the most amazing scene in the entire film of Wonder Woman, was almost cut out. And the director had to fight for that. And that's what I mean by that. Like, having to fight for that shit, like, it really sucks. And the fact that she won and she convinced the studio that is the most defining moment in the film, that she felt that it was. And it met with, actual, feedback for it. It is in the entire film, the best scene, of heart and action and all that stuff in the entire film. I mean, she knew that if I don't have the audience here after this scene, then there's no reason why they should like the film. And the studios eventually agreed, and they let her keep the scene in. And thank you for that. You know what I mean? Patty Jenkins, you did a great job. So thank you for that. So yeah, like fighting for your scenes and all that stuff. Sam Raimi in this case lost, and Spider-Man 3 was a dud. So sorry for that, Sam Raimi. And that was also the start of what I believe it was the entire Spider-Man franchise crumbling in the feet, underneath the weight. The second worst, I believe, is the first Amazing Spider-Man film. It was okay, but to me it was below average. I didn't like the change. I felt the film felt rushed for political reasons. Again, if Sony does not make a Spider-Man film within 5 years, they lose the property, and they can't have that. So there was this fiasco when Spider-Man 4 was supposed to be made, and then it fell through. Raimi walked, and everybody walked, so they had no movie. So Sony felt the obligation and the need to start the franchise again because they don't want to lose the property. So that's the reason why we keep getting a new Spider-Man, why we have to have a new Spider-Man. So yeah, the first one I believe felt rushed. The characters are good. A lot of people like the chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield. I don't see it and I don't get it. Their relationship is just as bland to me as Tom Holland's love interest in Homecoming. It's a little bland. I really don't care. It's a girl and he's a guy. And yeah, granted that Emma Stone's character is Gwen Stacy. I have never been a Gwen Stacy fanatic. I'd never seen her as, Peter Parker's main chick, at all. It's always been MJ, so, and that's the real love. That's always been his real love. That's like convincing people that Superman's real love is Wonder Woman or any other human woman that's not Lois Lane. It's not. That's just the way it is. So the one after that would be, believe it or not, I think that it is a slightly better film. Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think, is a much better film. It has a little bit more weight to it, I believe, emotionally. Not as much, but I liked Electro's character, his human character, and also his character more than I did Lizard. I think Lizard was very, cookie cutter for my taste. But Osborn being in it as a person was fine. Him being there as the Green Goblin was terrible. So that's where the movie falls apart for me, and especially at the end, where they try to open up this universe and they realized that it wasn't working. And that's when they decided that they were stale and they were doing something wrong. Unlike Fox, Sony at least saw that they were going into the shitter before it even happened. At least it took them 2 movies, and Fox is just still going, churning out shit for about 5, 6, 7 movies, and not realizing that they're still making shit. So bravo for Sony for that. So thank you for cutting the cord early and realizing your mistakes and realizing that you're going the wrong way. The one after that is Spider-Man Homecoming. I believe Spider-Man Homecoming is a very good film. It's above average, like I said. And you heard everything what I said before on why it's good and also why it's bad. So I can skip over and say that the original Spider-Man film is the one that goes over that. And one of the main reasons I'll hold it to it is because the film is a great introduction to the Spider-Man character. It's something that we needed at that time. It was a way better movie than anyone could have imagined it being. And it's the driving force, the real driving force. People say X-Men, but I believe it's Spider-Man, which came out a year later after X-Men. And I believe it's the real reason why we have the movies that we have now, whether it's DC or Marvel. We have it in that way because it was made by a fan. It was made by a person that understood the character, that's always followed the character. It was the first director that knew what he was doing because he was a fan of the franchise. He was a fan of the material. And God bless him. And we never had that before. Believe it or not, we never had a fan make a comic book film before, ever. And he was the first one. And he did a great job. He did a superb job. And the film has what Homecoming doesn't: consequences. Having to lose something in order to be something. Like, I think I can spoil it now. But the scene at the end of the film, Peter don't tell Harry, is fantastic. Having to keep a secret that he killed Harry Osborn, that he killed Norman Osborn. I'm sorry, not Harry. That he killed Norman Osborn. That he has he's the reason why his uncle's dead. That he has to keep secret from Mary Jane that he's Spider-Man, and and her wanting to be with him at the end of that film. That's what I mean. Consequences. That's what makes a film better if done correctly, in my book. And that's just plain and simple. And the best film, I believe, in the Spider-Man franchise is still Spider-Man 2, the sequel to the original Spider-Man. Why? Because it doubles down on everything that the first film has. Okay? It brought Doc Ock, who is, a fantastic version of him, I believe, that even he suffers from consequences, and there's even more consequences. And he had to, again, I think I can spoil it. The movie's old enough. He came clean with his aunt about being responsible, or at least somewhat responsible for killing, for the death of his uncle, and admitting to certain things, and coming clean with MJ about being Spider-Man and things like that, and the reason why he can't be with her and all this and that, and that's what I mean. It just doubles down on everything and keeps it going. And he's, you know, him being down in the dumps, it helps. All that shit helps, man. That's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. You know, and that's the reason why Spider-Man 2's shoes are huge. And that's the reason why Homecoming just doesn't measure up, because Homecoming does not have any of this kind of, you know, gravitas. It doesn't have these kind of like moments where you can grasp and say, wow, yo, I feel you. I fucking feel you. You know what I mean? All we have is really him wanting to be an adult already and shit like that. But, you know, and that's fine. And that's why Homecoming is really up there with all my MCU movies, because that is a good reason. You know, all that excitement of wanting to be an Avenger after the fact of after the fact of being in Civil War and what he contributed to that, to continue off of that was fantastic. It was the best way to go. I can tell you that much. When it comes to like story wise, that was the best way to go and be a part of the MCU. Like I said, welcome home. You deserve to definitely be here. And, you know, so there are great things about it. Don't get it twisted, but everything does have a negative twist to it. You know, not everything, you know, is 100% all the time with all these films, you know, especially with movies that have so much, you know, work behind it. When the bigger the movie, the bigger the mistakes, and, you know, you got to learn how to accept it or just not accept it at all and walk away. You know, but I think I've talked way too much about Spider-Man Homecoming and the entire Spider-Man franchise and MCU. And all I got to say is, you know, I hope that you comment, like, share on my social media sites. You can follow me on twitter.com/thehellpcast. You can follow me on facebook.com/whatthehellpcast, instagram.com/whatthehellpcast, YouTube and SoundCloud. What the hell did we just watch? Just search right there. Comment, like, share. I would like to hear your feedback about this film and any other films that I've talked about previously before. You know, if you just started listening to the show, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. If you're a veteran listener, thank you for listening. And yeah, man, I'm very happy to keep continuing. I can't wait to talk about the next topic. I'm always, you know, coming up with new things and new ways, you know, so stay tuned. Things are coming, things are changing in the second year of the What the Hell Did We Just Watch show. So, you know, thank you for the support. That's all I got to say. You know, so this has been Emotional Lou. What the hell did we just watch? The movie Spider-Man Homecoming. And I just got one thing to say from your professional appreciator. It's been emotional.